Hey everyone, how's it going today? Before I show you the next video in this module, I need to give you some context. Because there's a lot to be learned from this video, but if you don't have the right context, it's going to be more confusing than instructive. So let's get right to it. Number one, estimations can be a part of a case, or they can alone be the full case. The ones you've seen so far in this module would most likely be a part of a case, and would be followed or follow brainstorming, framework, hypothesis testing questions. But this one that you're going to watch right now is the full case by itself. So don't get surprised when you notice that the video is much longer than the other videos. But you're also going to notice other particular features of this video. Number one, you're going to notice that I interview Bruno in this video instead of doing a drill by myself. Number two, you're going to notice that there's pressure from the interviewer, which in the case is me. And number three, you're going to notice that both the case and the follow-up questions are a lot harder than in the other videos in this module. And why is it so different than the others? Well, the answer to this question is piece of context number two, which is this video doesn't originally belong here. This might be a bit confusing, so let me take a step back. Right now, what you're watching is our free course, Case Interview Fundamentals. And we also have other paid courses, and one of them is called Master Market Sizing, which is an advanced estimations course. In Master Market Sizing, we teach you how to go from knowing absolutely nothing about market sizing and estimation questions to being able to solve even the toughest ones in industries you've never heard of and the most absurd estimation questions you can imagine. And Master Market Sizing has 2 theory modules where we teach you our blueprint to estimation cases and the techniques to become a master in the skill, and 3 practice modules, which are typical estimation drills, non-conventional estimation drills, and partner estimation drills. This video was taken straight from the partner estimations module and was actually a case that Bruno got in one of his Bain final round interviews. Now, why is it here? The reason we put this video in Case Interview Fundamentals is because we felt this course had a few shortcomings up until now. A few things you couldn't grasp from the estimations module in our free course, now you can. Number one, what does it look like to be pressured from the interviewer? Previously you couldn't see that because you could only watch me doing a drill without the interviewer. Number two, what does a hard estimation case actually look like? Because all the other videos in this module are built to teach you the basic principles, so we couldn't really make any of them too hard. Number three, what does an estimation look like when it's the full case? And number four, how different can a partner estimation be? And honestly, this is the least different partner estimation in the course, but we didn't want to make things too complicated here, as I wouldn't even have the space to teach you everything that you need to know to understand the most complex estimation cases out there. The idea here is just to show you that partner cases can get very specific and that you're expected to be able to solve any kind of estimation, estimate really anything, not just a few simple markets. Now, I don't want to keep you here forever. I know you want to move on, watch the video, so let's get right to it.
Hey everyone, what's up? Julio here. So, in this partner drill, we're going to do a drill that Bruno got in his final round at Bain.
It was actually a case back then, not a drill.
Yeah, it was an entire case, and it's going to be an entire case as well. And it was with a particularly tough partner whose role I will be playing in this drill. And I want to remind you of something before we move on with this drill, and that is, you should know by now that in partnered cases, the follow-up questions are a particularly important part of the case, where the partner is looking for specific things with each question, and the answers you give are very important. So in every single time that I speak and ask something of Bruno or make a comment or anything like that, I want you to pause this video, think for a while, and come up with the answer that you would give the partner. Write it down, perhaps say it out loud, but put it out to the world, so that you can actually compare what your real answer is with Bruno's, and then improve it so that you can get better and get to the level that you're going to be able to solve every case with the partner.
Right.
All right, Bruno, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's go then. So the question here is the following. So BMW is thinking of bringing in-house their call center, and they want your help estimating what will be their total costs for their worldwide call center.
Okay. So just a couple clarifying questions. So right now they have an outsourced call center, if I understand.
Yeah, perfect.
And they want to bring it in-house.
Yeah.
Any particular reasons for that?
Well, they're a premium brand, and they're not particularly happy with the service level that actually not necessarily the service level, but they can't even really measure the service level that they're getting, and they want to make sure that they're delivering the best service for their clients.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, you mentioned that they will have a worldwide call center, but I understand that they will need to have several facilities because of different languages. Is that right?
Yes, they might need to have more than one.
Okay, because it's hard to put people
you
with
can't,
all language backgrounds in just one place.
Yeah, you can't get an entire building in Germany or India or somewhere with people speaking every single language in the world.
Okay, that makes sense. And the final question that I have is, what types of calls do they have in this call center? Because I think that's a pretty important part of the type of service that they'll need to provide.
What do you think?
Okay, so let me quickly draw an issue tree here. I understand that they might have calls for before the sale and for after the sale. And for both of these groups, I understand that they will have inbound calls, so clients or potential clients calling them, and then outbound calls, which are calls that they make to clients or potential clients, right? So
all right.
In the pre-sale inbound bucket, I imagine that they might have calls regarding scheduling test drives, questions that potential clients might have about their cars or their services when they're considering to buy a BMW. And I don't know if this would go to the call center, but perhaps media or PR firms or newspapers and magazines calling them. They wouldn't buy BMW, so it's technically not pre-sale, but it's not their customers. They might call to inquire them about some specific car accident that happened somewhere or a new product launch. Now, I don't know for all of these if the call center would be the people who would be getting these calls, because for media and PR, for example, I would imagine that that would go to corporate, and then for scheduling test drives, questions about cars and services, this might go to the local dealership, right? Now, but it could be part of their demand.
Okay.
On the outbound bucket, so BMW calling potential customers, I imagine there might be sales calls, like the ones you get from telecom companies or banks. Although I don't know if this fits with BMW positioning.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I find it really weird to get a call from a sales rep at BMW asking me if I want to buy a car. There could be calls There could be calls for which the role is to move the client through the sales funnel. So, for example, let's say that a client had a test drive and they didn't come back. They might want to call this person and ask if they're still interested, if they want to drive the car again, if they want to try a different model, if there were any concerns.
Okay, that's the dealership role, but okay.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Okay, right. So let's...
You can just ignore the pre-sale calls.
Yeah, I was going to mention, let's move on to the after sale. It looks more interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like everything pre-sale is not on the call center responsibility, right? Okay, so on the after sale, again, we have inbound calls. So customers calling BMW after they buy the car, and outbound calls, BMW calling their customers. So for inbound, I imagine there might be maintenance scheduling. So there's frequent maintenance, and I want to schedule. Maybe I've moved towns, I don't know where the dealership is or something like that. And then also questions about the car and the services. So, for example, let's say I'm driving my car and a weird light lights up on the panel, or it starts making a strange noise. I'll check the manual, but then there's a number there for me to call if I still have any questions. Or if I get involved in an accident, I might want to call my insurance company, but also the car company, so to order parts or to see where's the best mechanic for that type of car.
Perfect.
And then for outbound calls, one that makes a lot of sense to me is recalls. So if BMW finds a faulty part or an issue with a specific batch of a model that they created, they need to call all of their customers to schedule this recall, and then also research with their customers, so to see if their customers of a particular model are satisfied, or to see how their experience with the dealership was after they've done a test drive or entered the sales funnel. And I suppose that this one you can't leave to the dealership to do, otherwise they'll probably screw the results, right?
Yeah.
So
true.
these are my ideas of what types of calls they might have.
All right, that makes sense. For now, let's focus on the after-sales inbound calls. Those are 99% of the calls.
Okay, makes sense. Although I'd imagine that there could be recalls very often, not very often, pardon. There could be a lot of recall calls, but very sporadically. So we're not considering those.
Yeah,
for now.
true. We're not considering those.
Okay, so I'll focus on inbound. And am I right to say that this means maintenance issues or scheduling and questions about the car and the services?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll focus on that. So here's what I'm thinking. One way to estimate the cost would be to list all of the cost lines of a call center. So employees, equipment, technology, then there's the telephone bills, and then you have rent and everything, and estimate all of that. However, I think that there's a common factor underlying all of these costs, which is the demand for the services.
Okay.
So the way I'm thinking of structuring this is to estimate first the number of minutes called, and then multiply that by the dollar cost per minute. Does that make sense to you? And then all of the costs that I mentioned would go within the dollar cost per minute.
All right, I think it makes sense. Let's see how it goes.
So I'll use that as the first layer of my structure. Number of minutes called times the dollar cost per minute.
Okay.
And the way I'm thinking of structuring number of minutes called is to find out how many BMW cars. And can I focus just on cars and disconsider motorcycles and other types of vehicles?
Yeah, do that.
Okay. So the number of BMW cars in circulation globally, so not how many they sell per year, but how many are on the streets right now, because they might call in the first year, they might call in the fifth year that they own the car, and then multiply that by the number of minutes per car per year. Okay, so starting with how many BMWs are there in circulation globally, I would estimate the number of cars of any brand in circulation in the world, and then multiply that by the percentage of those that are BMWs.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So number of cars in circulation is pretty simple. It's kind of easy to find. All we need to do is to find the number of households in the world that have cars.
All right.
And then multiply that by the number of cars per household.
Okay.
And to find the number of households with cars, I can estimate the number of households and then estimate a percentage of those that have cars.
All right.
And the main reason for a household not to have a car is a lack of income, of course.
Okay.
And then to estimate the number of households, all we need is the global population, and then divide that by the average household size. So say the world has 7 billion people and there's like 3.5 people per household, that's 2 billion households, just to
All right.
give you an example. Now, to estimate the percentage of cars that are BMW, do we have a value for that? Because this one's a little tricky.
No, we don't.
Okay, let's assume we don't, I guess. I guess BMW would have, but
Probably, yeah.
since we're in this room, we don't have access to that. So the way I would do that is to estimate the percentage of cars that are premium cars, luxury brands, and multiply that by the percentage of luxury cars that are BMW.
All right.
Might not be super precise, but I guess we're gonna get closer than just guessing a random number for BMWs, right?
No, that makes sense.
Okay. And then for the number of minutes per car per year of inbound calls to the call center, I would estimate the number of calls that an average car or an average car owner calls BMW per year,
Yeah.
and then multiply that by the number of minutes per call.
Okay.
Okay? So that will give us the number of minutes called or the total demand for calls in this call center. And then we need to multiply that by the dollar cost per minute. And the way I see it, the cost per minute of calls has two major components, okay? The first one is the total cost per employee minute or per minute of an employee.
All right.
And by total cost, I mean the direct costs of the employees, so their wages, their benefits, etc., and also the indirect costs, so everything that they need to do the work.
Okay.
Rent of the facility, the technology, the supervisors.
All right.
So that's indirect. So that's total cost per minute of an employee. And then the other component of the dollar cost per minute of a call is the phone network costs. So how much we pay for the phone networks or the internet networks in case these calls are made via IP for a minute of a call.
Okay.
Okay, so for the first bucket, total cost per employee minute, the way I would calculate it is to calculate the total cost yearly per employee. So again, the direct and indirect portions of that cost. So how much does a full-time employee cost per year? And then divide that by how many minutes will one of these people be in calls with customers, which is not exactly how many minutes they work, because a portion of those minutes they're going to be doing other tasks.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And then the phone network costs, I would break it down into how much we're charged per minute of a call, but then add an addition for the waiting time in line, because I imagine that these customers are calling a toll-free number,
Yeah.
which means that we're paying for the calls. And so let's say that they do a 2-minute call,
Yeah.
but they waiting second for 30 seconds. In our estimation of demand, that's going to appear as 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But then we also have to pay for those 30 seconds while they're waiting for a representative to take their call. And hopefully they're not waiting that long, because again, we're a luxury brand. But we need to take that into account. Does this make sense to you? Does this sound like a good plan?
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. Let's you play some numbers in it though.
Okay, so I'll start taking assumptions and doing the calculations to figure out how much will this call center cost then.
Perfect.
So because we have a huge estimation tree here, I think I'm gonna start estimating the demand and then go into the cost per minute, just so it's not overwhelming. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so starting the number of minutes called, the first assumption that we need to do is the population, which I'm gonna assume 8 billion people. I know it was 7 billion like 5 years ago, so I'm guessing it's approaching 8.
Okay.
And then the average household size. This one is interesting because we're talking about BMWs, and I assume this product, their cars are bought by wealthier families that tend to be in rich countries, although there are a ton of wealthy families in poorer countries as well. And the household size in these families is smaller. But I'll still try to use the global average, because then we can just adjust for that in the percentage of cars that are BMWs.
All right.
All right. So I'm gonna use 4 people per household here. I think it's closer to like 2.5 or 3 in wealthier countries, and closer to 5 in lower income countries.
All right. Makes sense.
So 4, I think, makes sense. Then the percentage of those households that own a car. What I'm thinking here is there are kind of 2 groups of people that don't own cars. Besides those people that don't like cars, which I think globally it's a minority.
Yeah.
I think there are people who are very close to the poverty line, so either they're under the poverty line or they've just crossed it, and these people definitely can't afford a car.
Yeah.
And I would guess that's like 50% of the world's population.
Makes sense.
Considering, a lot of people live in India, Bangladesh, the countryside of China, then there's Africa, then all the poor people in developing countries, I'd guess 50%.
All right.
And then there's mid to low income families that either they can't afford, even though they have a nice life, they still can't afford a car, or they choose to use public transportation because they need to really budget and adjust their budget to have a car and cut expenses on food and living conditions and things like that.
Okay.
So they just choose to use public transportation. And I'm assuming that's like 20% of the world's population.
All right. So you're left with
30%
okay.
of the people in the world who own a car.
Okay.
Okay. Then of those people, how many cars do they have? A lot of those people have 1 car, but now we're talking about wealthier people, so a lot of them will have 2, 3, even 4 cars. So I was thinking of just assuming 1.5 cars per household.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So with that, we can calculate the number of cars in circulation.
All right.
I'll just do the calculations. So 8 billion people divided by 4 people per household, that's 2 billion households, of which 30% own a car, at least 1 car. So 10% of 2 billion is 200 million times 3, that's 600 million households with at least 1 car.
Okay.
Times 1.5 cars per household gives us 900 million cars in circulation globally.
All right.
Okay, now we need to find out how many of those are BMWs. And for that, I have the percentage that are luxury cars, and then the percentage of luxury cars that are BMWs. And as I said, this is tricky because it's hard to assume values for this. It's hard to have a basis.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking is, for the luxury cars, there's that whole 1% thing of the population that they're wealthy and they can afford luxury brands. And I was thinking that this can be a basis. So if you look at other markets, for example, purses, most purses aren't luxury purses, or watches, most watches. Well, people who actually use watches nowadays might be, this could be a luxury watch because other people are using their smartphones instead.
Yeah.
But what I mean here is, in most markets, fashion, purses, and home decoration, most people, the vast majority, don't own luxury brands. And the same is true for cars.
Perfect.
So I'd expect the percentage of cars that are luxury cars to be lower than 10%, but also higher than 1% for 2 reasons. One is there's the 1% of the population that, there's this whole 1% movement, which is no basis for anything, but since we have to assume a value, I'll use that as a parameter. but also these people with much more money, they can afford to have more cars than 1.5 per household.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
So I was thinking of assuming 3% of cars are luxury cars.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can we go with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's the BMW market share within luxury cars, which is tricky as well. And what I was thinking here is to ask you if we have the market share of BMW, because if we have the annual sales in percentage of luxury cars, I'll assume that that didn't change that much in the past 10 years. So we could make the market share equivalent to the percentage in circulation.
All right, that makes sense, but I do not know the BMW market share.
Okay. Let's try to figure this out then. So the way I will think about it is that, so there are two types of luxury cars. There's like affordable luxury, like BMW. You don't have to be like a mega millionaire to own a BMW. And there's like very high-end luxury cars like Bugatti or, you know, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and I'll assume that the vast majority of luxury cars are affordable in a sense, and then I can think of a ton of brands like BMW, Mercedes, Audis, then there's Volvos, Land Rovers, Jaguar, Aston Martin. I don't know how affordable that is.
Yeah, I get the point.
So there's like 20 or 30 brands. So if you split that evenly, you'd have like an average of 3 to 5% market share per brand. And I think BMW is a more famous brand among these brands.
Yeah.
So let's say that they have 10% of the luxury cars.
All right, I think that makes sense.
Okay, so let's use 10% then. So that would mean that the percentage of cars that are BMW is 0.3%.
Okay, because it's 3% luxury times 10% luxury that are BMW.
Exactly. So of all cars in the circulation in the world, 900 million, 0.3% are BMWs, which kind of makes sense. It's like 1 in 300 cars.
Yeah.
If you looked in the developed world, you'd say it's closer to 1 in 50 perhaps, but then there's all the rest of the world where you barely see one.
Yeah.
Which would give us a number of BMWs in circulation of 900 million times 0.3%. So 1% of 900 million is 9 million.
Yeah.
So 0.1% is 0.9 million.
Yeah.
Times 3, that's 2.7 million BMWs in circulation globally.
Okay, that sounds right.
Now, with that, to estimate the demand for the call center in minutes called, we need to estimate the number of minutes per car per year.
Okay.
So we have number of calls per car per year, and we have number of minutes per call. For the number of calls, I'm thinking my personal usage. I don't have a BMW, but I barely call my car company.
Yeah.
I think I've called them like twice in 10 years. Okay? But also I'm pretty young, so we millennials don't call people that often. I imagine.
Do you drive much?
I don't drive a lot either.
Oh, okay. So that probably changes your experience versus the average a bit.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking that the average BMW owner is older than me, and older people like to solve problems by calling companies. I do it all on the internet.
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe half a call per year.
Okay.
So 1 call every 2 years, because BMWs, they don't break down a lot. It's not like you don't have to do maintenance very often. Just one call every 2 years all right for you?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay, so let's go with 1 call every 2 years, and then there's the number of minutes per call. And the way I think about it is there are 2 types of calls. There are very quick calls, like, hey, I have a question. This light in my panel? Should I worry about it? And then they'll just give me an answer. So it's like 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
And there are very long calls when you have a real issue, like where they have to troubleshoot and ask you to do things with the car and wait for your reaction to see what happens, and then perhaps transfer the call to another person. And there are very few calls in the middle. Like they're either very quick or very long.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
Can I assume that there's a 50-50 split among these two types of calls?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. So if we assume that the very quick calls are like 4 minutes long, and the very long calls are like 30 minutes long, we would have an average of minutes per call of 17 minutes. Because it's 50% of 4 minutes is 2 minutes, and then 50% of 30 minutes is 15 minutes, and then we add those two up, we have 17 minutes per call.
Oh, okay, so that's the weighted average. All right.
Yeah, it's the weighted average, which is the same as a simple average because it's 50-50.
True, perfect.
Okay, so with that, we have half a call per car per year, so that will give us 8.5 minutes per car per year, so 17 times half or divided by 2.
Okay.
Okay? Which kind of makes sense, 8 minutes per car.
Yeah.
In demand.
Yeah, if you own a car, then you'll spend 8 minutes in your year on the phone with the car company. That sounds okay.
Yeah, it sounds all right, right? So to estimate the demand of minutes for this call center, we have 2.7 million BMWs calling an average of 8.5 minutes per year.
Yeah.
So that would be about 3 million cars for 10 minutes, so 30 million minutes. Can I use this number? I rounded both numbers up by a little bit.
No, I'd rather you use the precise number. Just do the calculations.
Okay, so that sounds fair. So I can multiply 2.7 million times 8.5, or I can adjust that 30 million figure because 8.5 is 15% less than 10 minutes, which is what I used.
Okay.
And 2.7 million is 10% less than 3 million, which is what I used. So if I reduce 30 million by 15% and then the result of that by 10%, I'll get exactly the number of minutes. So
okay.
I'll do the calculation this way, all right?
All right.
So 30 million minus 15% is 15% of 30 million is 4.5 million. So 30 minus 4.5 is 25.5 million.
Okay.
Okay, and now we need to take 10% of 25.5 away. So 10% of 25.5 is 2.55 million.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so 25.5 minus 2.55 equals, if it were 2.5, then we'd have 23.
Yeah.
And then we have to take 50K away from it, so it's 22.95 million minutes.
Okay, just use 23.
Okay, so we have a demand for a call center of 23 million minutes. Now to calculate the call center cost, we just need to figure out the cost per minute. So if it were like $1 per minute, it would be $23 million in call center costs. But I have no idea if it's $1 or not. Let's figure that out now.
All right.
So as I said, the dollar cost per minute of a call will be the total cost per minute of an employee, including direct and indirect costs, and it will be the cost of the phone network per minute.
Okay.
Right, so I'll start with the total cost per employee minute. To calculate that, as I've mentioned before, I'm going to find the yearly cost per full-time employee, and then divide that by the number of minutes that they're on calls per year.
All right.
Right? So I'll start with the total cost per employee per year. So we have direct and indirect costs. Direct costs being wages, benefits, things that end up going to the employee.
Yeah.
And then indirect costs are rent, equipment, supervisors, things like that.
Okay.
I was thinking of using an assumption of $10 per hour for employees on the direct costs, and then another $10 per hour on indirect costs, just to put them all the indirect costs in a bundle and call it like that. Now, the reason for $10 per hour for the direct costs is that that's a little bit above minimum wage in most of Europe and in the US. And I imagine that BMW would pay like $12 or $13 per hour in those countries.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have lower cost countries in which labor is much, much cheaper. But you don't want to go too cheap because you want high quality employees to talk to our luxury customers.
Okay. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't. I just don't know. I think we're going to need to get a lot more specific than that.
What do you mean by that? Like,
break it down further. What are the components of each one of those?
Okay, so let's break it down. For the direct costs, there are wages.
Okay.
There are benefits, so health insurance, life insurance. In some countries, you pay for their lunch, cafeteria, transportation benefits, things like that.
All right.
And then there are taxes.
Okay.
So again, this varies by country, and my guess is that in some countries you'd have no taxes from the company's part and just the employee paying income taxes.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries you have that, but we need to consider that because we will have a global pool of call center operators, right?
Okay.
And then on the indirect costs, which I had the intention to assume $10 per hour per employee too. I guess the main costs are related to the work tools and environment, which is the rent of the facility or the office where they'll stay. And then you have tools like computers and so on, and software, which I've read once about call center software that they charge per position, so per employee in a sense, and that it's pretty expensive because it improves efficiency in the call center and so on. Then we have management, so the supervisor of the call center operators, because we're considering the cost per employee that calls to the customer.
Okay.
But then we need a management structure on top of that, and I want to include those costs into the hour of the employee who calls the customer.
All right.
And then we have HR-related costs, such as hiring, firing, and training of these employees, of these call center operators. So that's how I would break down direct and indirect costs.
All right. Now it makes sense.
Okay?
Go on. You can place your numbers in it.
Okay, so I need to assume numbers to each of these.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll start with wages.
Mm-hmm.
Can I assume a 8-hour per day shift?
Yeah, sure.
I imagine that in some places you'd need more time than that, but just to make...
Yeah, you can assume 8 hours per day.
Okay, so I'll assume an 8-hour per day shift, and I'll assume that the employee works 250 days per year. Usually it's 252 that people considering Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll use 250, just 1% difference or less than 1% difference.
All right, that's okay.
And I would assume $10 per hour again.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so 8 hours per day times 250 days per year is 2,000 hours per year times $10 per hour would be $20,000 in wages per year.
Perfect.
Okay? Then we have benefits. And my guess, the way I would do it is to assume a percentage of the salary. So something like 10% of the wages, if it makes sense to you.
Yeah, that does make sense.
That would be $2,000 per year. And then we have the taxes, which I really honestly don't know what to assume, but I guess most states would charge as tax for this kind of employment something in the lines of 10 to 20% of their wage.
Yeah, you can use 20% as a global average.
Okay, so that's $4,000 per year. So summing 20 in wages plus 2 in benefits plus 4, that would give us $26,000 of cost directly to have an employee, a full-time employee working in this call center. And then we have the indirect costs.
Okay.
Okay, so we have work environment, so we have rent, software, and tools. Do we have any assumptions for those? I mean, I could estimate rent from a generic renting area in terms of square meters and then multiply that by how many square meters are needed for a person to work in this kind of work, but I don't really know the average rent for this.
I do have some numbers. So for rent, let's say it would cost $50 per square meter per year.
Okay.
For renting these facilities worldwide.
Okay, on average. Okay, so I would assume something like 3 or 4 square meters per person. Call centers are pretty cramped. So
how'd you get to that?
the specific space that the person works would have like a meter by a meter. As I said, call centers tend to be cramped.
Yeah.
But then you need another square meter as hallways, like corridors for people to move around.
Yeah.
And then I just added an extra square meter for common areas that besides hallways or management areas.
All right, so you have 3 square meters per
person. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so that would give us $150 per year on rent per person, and then we need software and tools, of which I think software is the most expensive one because computers and telephones can last quite a long time. Do we have any range for software?
Yeah, you can use $2,000 per year for software and tools together.
Okay, well, that's quite a lot. It's 10% of their wage.
Yeah, but it is really important for their
work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so $2,000. So for work environment, we have $2,150.
Yeah.
Then we have management. I would assume again a percentage, so like 10% of their wage to spend with management. Does that make sense?
I'd like you to get more specific in that as well.
Okay.
I'm not trusting that number.
It's too high level.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So I would imagine something like 3 management levels in the structure. So say for every 10 call center operators, you'd have a supervisor, so that's a first level. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'd have for every 10 supervisors perhaps a manager, and then you'd have like a third level, so a director. And I'm thinking of this for each facility, but we can think of it in the aggregate.
Yeah.
Because I guess each facility would have the same level of management structures, and they'd be in enough scale for us to consider it as just one thing. Can we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is to use a multiple of the salary or the wage or the direct cost of this manager or this supervisor, and then multiply divide that by how many people they can take care of. So for example, if a first level supervisor can take care of 10 people and he earns twice as much as the average call center operator, that would add to each call center operator a cost on top of the direct cost, a cost of 20%. So 2 times 10% or 1/10. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so that would be for the supervisor would add 20% on top of the direct cost of a call center operator. Then on a second level manager, so the guy or girl who manages supervisors, can we assume that they manage something like 10 supervisors?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that would be 100 field people.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And could we assume that they earn like 4 times as much as a call center operator, something like $40 per hour?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Seems like a good wage for a manager operation.
Yeah, in a call center. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so that's 4 times 100th, so 1%. So that would add 4% to their cost.
Yeah.
And then the third level, the director. So I'd imagine that this person makes like twice as much as a manager or 8 times as much as a call center operator, but he take care of like 1,000 people or more.
Yeah.
So that would be like less than 1%. I'd say it's irrelevant. Like it would be
Okay, you can ignore that.
okay. So we have 20% add-on cost from the direct cost, and we need to consider not just the wages but the benefits and taxes, because these guys have benefits and taxes as well.
Okay.
For the supervisors, plus 4% from the managers. So that's 24% of the management. So management would cost per call center operator an extra 24% of their direct cost.
Okay.
And I
you
was
can go
thinking,
with 25.
yeah, that's what I was thinking of, rounding it up to 25 because of the director
Yeah.
and because it's easier as well. So 25% of 26,000, which is the direct cost that we found, is 26 divided by 4.
Yeah.
So that's 26 divided by 2 is 13,000. And if we divide it by 2 again, that's $6,500 of management.
Okay.
So about 3 times as much as the work environment, which was 2,150.
All right. Perfect.
All right. And then we have HR. So we have hiring, firing, and training. For hiring and firing, what I thought was to assume a turnover rate.
Yeah.
So how often do we have to hire and fire employees so we can have the positions filled year round?
Yeah.
And then multiply that by a cost of hiring and a cost of firing in terms of their wage, not of their total cost, because I don't think we need to pay benefits and taxes on that. But I've heard once that in general, to hire someone, that's about a month's wage or 10% of their annual salary. That's about how much recruiting firms charge, kind of regardless of the level of the person.
Okay. Regardless of their level, they'll charge
10% of
10%
the yearly
or
salary or
month.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking of using that figure. And for the turnover, I don't know the value, but I'd assume it's pretty high because it's not the best job in the world to be a call center operator. Right?
You can assume that the average worldwide call center turnover is 1.5
Okay, so is that for the whole industry or would be for in-house?
for the whole industry.
Okay, so because I was thinking this is a highly outsourced industry, and I was thinking if you have an in-house call center operation of a good company like BMW, then turnover could be lower.
That makes sense.
Does it make sense?
I find it to be feasible. Yeah.
Okay, so can I use once a year? Like, the average employee would stay with the job for like 12 months or so.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and can I use the firing cost as the same as the hiring cost? So 10% of the wage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so I'll do once a year, you have to pay 20% of the wage of the employee for hiring and firing.
Okay.
So that's $4,000 per employee.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then we have training, which I'd assume it's less than 10% of their wage. I mean, I'm thinking of a percentage of the wage because you want to train employees because it's better than not training them and them not doing their job well.
Yeah.
But you'd also not pay like their full wage every month in training. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. You just hire someone that's more skilled.
Yeah. Sure. So you can assume it would cost $1,000 to train an employee.
In training costs per year.
Yeah. We're assuming that they're staying a year.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's true. And does that assume their time as well, or just the cash costs?
No, that's only the cash costs.
Okay, great. So we have $1,000 in training, which is 5% of their wage, makes sense, plus $4,000 in hiring and firing. So we have $5,000 HR costs. Now we can calculate the total cost per employee per year. So to do the indirect, we need to sum up management, HR, and work environment.
Okay.
Right? So HR $5,000 plus $6,500 in management is $11,500. And we have plus the work environment, so that's 11.5 plus 2,000, that's 13.5 plus 0.15, that's $13,65000, which is about half of the direct costs.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So if we sum 13.65 plus $26,000 of the direct cost, that would be $39,65000 per employee, or if we can round that up, would be about $40,000 per employee per year.
Okay, yeah, you can use 40,000.
Okay, so total cost per employee is $40,000. Now, the next step to find the total cost per minute in employees is to find how many minutes in a year is each employee in a call. So we can divide the total cost per employee by how many minutes, and we'll find the cost per minute then.
Okay.
Okay, and to do that, I will break it down into how many minutes each employee works per year.
Okay.
And then multiply that by what percentage of time when they're at work that they're in calls, because they might be working on something else other than customer calls too.
All right.
Okay,
Sure.
so minutes worked per year, as I said, 8 hours per day times 250 days per year, that's 2,000 hours per year. So we just need to multiply 2,000 hours by 60 minutes per hour, which would give us 2 times 6 is 12, and then we need to add a 0. That's 120,000 minutes per year, right?
No, actually. In many countries, there are days when you're paying your employees even though they're not going to work.
What do you mean by that?
So in some countries you pay sick days for employees.
Oh, right, there's sick days. Okay, so there are sick days.
But not only.
Not only, right. You have vacations, paid time off.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
What else?
You have maternity leave. You have paternity leave. Although that's probably very small because most countries don't have that.
Yeah, it is too small. You can go with only those 3.
Okay, so we need to take into account sick days, paid time off, and maternity leave.
Yeah, perfect.
And discount that from the 120,000 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do that in percentages if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's easier to discount. So sick days, I would say it's pretty high with this type of employment because they don't have a prosperous career necessarily.
Yeah, sure.
So let's say a day per month out of the 20 days.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds about fine.
Okay, so 5%. But I'm thinking that not every country will make you pay them in sick days.
Perfect. Yes. You can assume that half of the countries, or proportionally half of our call centers, will pay for sick days.
Okay, so let's say 2.5%.
Yeah, perfect.
Less time because of sick days. Then we have paid time off. I would assume a month per year. I know that in the US it's less than that. Perhaps in China, not sure. But I'd say most countries will just do 1 month per year.
Yeah, a month is fine.
Okay, so that's about 8%, a month out of 12. So I'll use 8%. And then maternity leave. This one's a tricky one. Do we have any data for this?
What kind of data are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of, well, first we need to figure out what percentage of our call center operators are women.
Okay.
Because if we're just considering paternity leave, then
yeah, sure.
we just have this with women.
So you can assume half of our employees are women?
Half of our employees, okay. And then we need to figure out what percentage of women will get pregnant per year, and then we need to figure out how much time they're off when they do get pregnant.
Okay, perfect. Assume they're off for 3 months on average.
3 months on average, okay. And the percentage of time or the chances that they get pregnant. The way I would do it is to consider that a woman is fertile for like 20 years of their life.
Okay.
And if they have a couple children during their life, that's a child every 10 years, which is like a 10% of chances of pregnancy every year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then we may have women that are older working for us. So we need to account for that. Or we can just use 10% if we assume that most of our employees are between 20 and 40 years old.
Yeah, just go with 10%.
Okay, so we have 50% women having a 10% chance of getting pregnant. That's 5%. Times 25% of the year, 3 months is 25% of the year of paid time off because of maternity leave. So that's 5% times 25% is 5% divided by 4, which is 1.25%.
Perfect.
Okay, so that gives us the minutes worked is 120,000 minutes minus 2.5% of sick days plus 8% of paid time off, that's 10.5%.
Okay.
Plus 1.25% of maternity leave, that leaves us with 11.75%.
Yeah.
Can I just do 12% just to make the math easier?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have 120,000 minutes minus 12% of that. 12% of that should be 12 times 12 is 144. So that's 14.4 thousand minutes.
Okay.
Because we've rounded the percentage up, we can round this down. So that would leave us with a nice 14,000 minutes instead of 14.4.
Yeah, that's
minutes.
fine.
Okay, it's actually closer to the real number. So they'll be working 106,000 minutes per year. And then of that, a certain percentage of that time they're in calls, and I would think that's close to 80%, but by now I'm thinking that you want me to...
You are right. I want you to go further in this. I'm not trusting this number at all.
Okay, so let's say between one call and the other, they have some, perhaps a few seconds or a minute with no calls, so nothing from the customer side calling them.
Perfect.
They have lunch break. I don't know if we pay for that, but...
Yeah, some we do for at least for a short lunch break.
Like 20 or 30 minutes?
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Okay, so 30 minutes out of an 8-hour shift would be something like 7% of their workday.
Yeah,
6%.
Yeah.
Then they can go to the bathroom and for cigarettes, maybe another 20-30 minutes. And well, they have training and perhaps they have meetings as well, performance meetings, for example, and we need to pay for that time.
Yeah.
Right? And I assume this is like 10% of their time.
Yeah, just go with 80%. Go with your 80%.
Okay, sounds good.
You've done the work.
Okay, that sounds good. So 106,000 minutes per year times 80%. So 10% of 106,000 minutes is 10.6 thousand minutes.
Okay.
So 20% should be twice that. That would be 21.2 thousand minutes.
Okay.
So if we discount 106,000 minutes minus 21.2 thousand, we will have 100,000 minutes minus 20,000 minutes is 80,000 minutes, and 6,000 minutes minus 1.2 thousand minutes is 4.8. So that is 84.8 thousand minutes per employee in calls with customers.
All right.
And that's assuming that the demand of calls is stable, which
we are going to assume.
okay, sounds good. So to figure out the total cost per employee minute or per minute of an employee with customers, that would be $40,000 divided by 84.8 thousand minutes per employee.
Okay.
If this were 80,000 minutes per employee, it would be 40,000 divided by 80,000, so 50 cents per minute.
All
right?
right.
I'm assuming that you want the precise number.
I do.
Okay, so one way to do it is 4.8 thousand minutes is 4,000 minutes would be 4,000 minutes would be 5% more than 80,000, and 0.8 is 0.8 is 1% of
Okay.
80,000.
Yeah.
So 4.8 is 6%. So because 84.8 thousand is 6% higher than 80,
Yeah.
then the cost per minute is 6% lower. Very close to the truth. I don't think it's precise, but it's very close.
Yeah, this is close enough. I'm
Okay.
fine with this.
So I can get 50 cents per minute and take away 6%,
Yeah.
which is 3 cents. So we're left with 47 cents per employee minute with a customer in line.
Perfect.
And the final component is the phone network cost per minute of a call. So you need to pay the phone company either for internet or telephone. I don't know what's the usual way that these call centers work, if it's voice over IP or regular telephone calls. But what I do here is to find a cost per minute.
Yeah.
And then there are, of course, local calls and international calls, depending on how we group these call centers. If we have one for every country, then they're all local, which probably doesn't make sense. But then if we have like a split of a few call centers globally, then some of these calls will be local and some international. And then I'd add an addition for the waiting time in line. As I've mentioned earlier today, the minute of a call is the minute where the customer is actually talking to the call center rep, but they're waiting in line for somewhere between a few seconds and a few minutes, and we need to pay that as well.
Perfect.
Okay?
All right.
So for the cost per minute, do we have any idea of how much it costs? It's really hard for me to think about it, because what I would do is to find the retail rate and then discount because we're paying wholesale.
Yeah.
But I don't know my retail rate for phone calls because I just pay for a plan, right?
Yeah. Okay. I can give you that. So assume that local calls are 1 cent per minute, and international calls are 3 cents per minute.
Okay, so 1 cent per minute for local and 3 cents for international. And do we know the split
What do you think?
between local and international?
What do you think?
Well, it's a decision that they should make. Okay, so here's how I would think about it. In a way, it would make sense for them to find the lowest cost country that they can have a big call center with massive economies of scale, because this difference between local and international calls of 2 cents per minute is less than 5% of the cost per employee per minute.
Okay, that makes sense. The 47 cents.
Yeah, the difference. So that's 5% of that number.
Yeah.
And say if you find a low cost country and compare that with a German call center operator, for example, or an American call center operator, then the difference is going to be much more than that.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But you probably don't want someone from India or a low-cost country having a German customer in line, because first, they don't speak German very well in most low-cost countries, and second, we're a luxury brand. We need to take these calls well. So I would think that they would have not a call center in every country, but more than a few call centers across the globe. So if I were BMW, I'd probably have a call center in the US with local people because of the accent and so on. I'd have one in Germany because they sell a lot of cars there. Then perhaps one in some European country where they can hire native French speakers, native UK English speakers, Spanish, Italians, and so on.
Yeah.
Maybe have a call center in Scandinavia with people from different countries there. One in Eastern Europe.
Okay, that makes sense. Why don't you go with a 50-50 split between local calls and
International calls?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can take a simple average between 1 cent and 3 cents and have a 2 cent cost per minute.
Yeah.
And then we have to add onto that something for our customers waiting in line. So the way I would do is to estimate the average waiting time and divide that by the average call length, which is 17 minutes. And then we know how much percent we should add on top of the 2 cents cost per minute.
All right.
Do we know the average waiting time for a call center?
What do you think?
Okay, that's a good question. The way I see it, it's a decision of the company. And the reason for that is we can have a call center with more people and have a lower waiting time.
Yeah.
Or a call center with less people and have customers waiting for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't think it makes sense to have BMW customers waiting for a long time in line, because if they're calling, like no one wants to call their car manufacturer. They've probably had some problem, or many of them will have had some problem. And if you don't treat them well right now, they're never going to buy a BMW again. So I'd say anything more than 2 minutes waiting time is too much.
Okay. So what do you think is the number?
If you're okay with it, I'd love to use 1.7 minutes so I can divide by 17 minutes of the average call length and have a nice 10% there.
That is fine.
Okay.
You can do that.
Okay, great. So that would give us a phone network cost per minute of call of 2.2 cents or $0.022.
Can you walk me through that?
Oh yeah, sure. It's 2 cents per minute plus 10%, which is 0.2 cents.
Oh, okay, because it's 1.7 minutes divided by 17, which is the average length of the call.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
So we have a 10% addition on the cost per minute because of the waiting time.
Okay, perfect.
So we're assuming that the waiting time is 10% of the call. So, and we're assuming that we're paying the same fee to the telco.
Okay, makes sense, yeah.
So we have 2.2 cents, which will give us a total dollar cost per minute of calls of 47 cents in total employee costs and 2.2 cents in phone network costs, which is 49.2 cents, or we can round it up to 50 cents, which happens to be the name of the rapper as well. So that's 50 cents per minute of calls, or if you want to be specific, it's 49.2.
Yeah, we can go with 50
cents. Okay, so that is interesting because at 8.5 minutes per car per year, we have a call center cost of about $4 per car.
Okay.
So it's not too much if you consider how much a car costs, right?
Yeah.
Now let's see the total cost of call centers, which is the initial question. And to do that, all I have to do is to multiply the 23 million minutes in demand of call center operators and multiply that by 50 cents. So we just have to divide 23 million by 2, which will give us a $11.5 million of annual call center costs for BMW.
Okay, what do you think of that?
That's a good question. So one way to think of this number is how many cars I need to sell to get that revenue or that profit back. So if we think like the average BMW costs $50,000 per car, and I'm assuming that the average BMW is a Series 3, not a Series 7 or those super expensive cars. So that would be about, just to do round numbers here, a $10 million cost at $50,000 per car would be 200 cars sold in revenue. Or if we assume a 30% profit margin, that would be 600 cars sold per year to pay for our call center, which is not a lot. See, we had assumed that we have 2.7 million BMWs circulating globally.
Yeah.
If we assume that a BMW lasts for 10 years, that means, assuming that growth is flat and everything, that means 270,000 cars sold per year, right? So 600 cars out of 270,000, if we round that up to 300,000 cars per year, 600 out of 300,000, it means that for every 500 cars that we sell, one is there to pay the call center, if we assume a 30% profit margin. So it's not one of their largest costs for sure. It's not too expensive for this company.
Okay, and if you were the CEO, how would you think about this cost? What would you think of it?
If I were the CEO of BMW?
Yeah.
Good question. I think there are two ways to think about it. The way that people usually think of call centers, and mainly telecom companies, those companies that call you all the time, is that they think of it as a cost that they need to cut, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I were the CEO of BMW, let's say I have this $11.5 million per year cost, maybe I could cut 10 or 20% of it if I made the call center very efficient and maybe reduce the service levels.
Yeah, maybe.
So that's a $1.5 to $3 million saving per year. But as I hinted in the waiting time part of the case, if you have a BMW and you need to call them, you don't really want to do that. You probably have a problem. And it's one of those interactions where you might lose the customer forever. Or if you treat them really, really well, you might get their loyalty, and then they'll tell all their wealthy friends about it, and they'll buy a new BMW when the time comes. So if I were the CEO, I could think of this as a marketing expense. And
okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah, thinking of it that way, like, I wouldn't say it would be a bad business move to even invest more to increase the quality of this call center, and maybe if let's say we had a $20 million cost per year instead of 11.5, we'd probably have a really, really good call center with really good service, and the customers that had to call, and they do call once every 2 years, as we've assumed, they'd be delighted. And we wouldn't need to grow our sales too much to justify that.
All right, sure, that makes sense, but can you give me some examples of how they would be delighted? Like, you're talking about a $10 million increase in costs.
It's just an assumption. It's hard to measure.
I get that, but can you give me some examples? Like, what would this super call center do differently?
Good question. Let me think of a few examples, right? So right now we're paying $10 per hour for this person. Okay. So they're not super qualified, especially in a developed country. Yeah. If we paid them $12 or $13 per hour, or even $15 per hour, and instead of doing like $1,000 in training, we had like $2,000 in training. Yeah. Perhaps we could have super polite people who know how to treat the customer well and they're basically more polite. So that's one way to think about it.
Okay.
Another way to think about it is to have, I don't know, like let's say that about 10% of the calls had an issue on the road and they need to troubleshoot it.
Yeah.
It would be much better if they could be on a call with a trained mechanic,
Okay.
which could cost like $30 to $40 per hour if it's a super skilled mechanic that can troubleshoot a car through the phone.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't add the cost too much because we're talking about a threefold increase in salary, but just on 10% of the operators in the call center. So it's a $3 per hour increase on average.
Okay.
So, and that would make the experience much better because if your car broke in the middle of the road, you're probably never gonna buy that brand anymore unless you're on a call with a mechanic that can help you out and they can maybe even FaceTime you and see what lights in the panel showed up or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another example, we currently pay $2,000 per year in software and tools. Maybe there are pieces of software that we can add that integrate with our sales process, for example. And that would mean that the call center operator, when they talk to the customer, they could say things like, well, hey, John, it's nice to talk to you. And they know your name because of your phone number.
Yeah.
And they say, well, I see it's your third car with us, and I'm really delighted to have you on call today. What can I help you with? And they have some basic information about you, like you've been a customer before, what's your name, where do you live?
Yeah, so it can feel like you're talking to someone who knows you.
Instead of a random person that doesn't care about you. Yeah. So I don't really know if we need to bump this up to $20 million. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that maybe we can increase the service level through creative ways, and maybe even we as a consulting firm can think of these ways and propose to the client how to do that, and the cost easily justifies itself because we're talking about a $50,000 product and currently a $4 per customer annual cost in an important interaction that they have with us that, albeit infrequent, when it happens, it's an important interaction.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right, guys, so this is it for this case. Now, I want to go through some key insights that you can learn from this case. They're probably the most important lessons in it. All right, so the first thing is, you might have noticed that in this case, Bruno went into extreme depth within the estimation. You've probably not even done an estimation with that level of depth of structure so far, right? And the question you might be asking yourself is, how do you even know if you're gonna have to go to that level of depth? Because if you don't go to that level of depth, an interviewer wants you to go to that level of depth, then, well, that's going to be a problem, right? And if you do go into, but the interviewer didn't want you to do that, then you've got a problem as well, because you're going to take forever to do a simple estimation that the interviewer wanted to be super simple. Now, the answer to this question is simpler than you might think. You never have to do an estimation this deep without the partner asking you to do that. But you have to be prepared to go into this level of depth in any estimation, in every single estimation. Because at any point, the partner can ask you to go deeper. So in this specific case, it is super important that you are efficient because the case is so long. So if you're not efficient, then the partner wouldn't even have time to ask you to go deeper where he wants you to go deeper the most. But you could never know that the case would be so long beforehand, right? You can't start the case and then before you start structuring, you ask the partner, oh, so how long is this going to go? Just so I know how efficient I'm going to be. So you need to be efficient in every estimation that you do. And in this one specific case, the main source of efficiency was the approach that was used. Which brings me to the second key insight. The approach that Bruno used to break down this estimation. You might have noticed that the idea of breaking the costs down right away into number of minutes demanded, number of minutes of calls, and cost per minute is not the first choice for a lot of people. But well, it should be. So the question that I'm going to answer now is, why did Bruno break the structure down into minutes and cost per minute rather than the actual cost components, which is the most common choice if you are doing a cost estimation? So let me show you first what this would look like the structure would look like if we were actually doing breaking the cost down into the cost components. And then I'm going to show you why it can translate all into minutes and cost per minute. And then I'm going to explain you why this choice is better than going straight into the cost components. So if we were to break down the worldwide BMW call center costs into the cost components, this is what we would have. Employees, rent, software, tools, phone network costs. This is more or less what it would be like. And then let's say we break down the employees into employees that make calls, management, and hiring and training, because that's also within employees' costs, right? If then we should try to get to the number of employees that make calls, or rather the cost of employees that make calls, which should be the number of employees times their salaries, right? And benefits, of course. So to get to the number of employees, we would need to find the demand in number of minutes of calls, right? And then we would cross that against the supply of minutes per employee. So how many minutes in a year an employee will talk on the phone with customers. So the way to get to employees that make calls is by finding the demand in minutes of calls, and then the supply of minutes per employee. And then to find the management cost, we would need to find the number of employees, because the number of managers in every single level depends on the number of employees in the base of the front line of the organization, right? So it depends on the number of employees, which again depends on the demand in minutes of calls. And then the hiring and training costs, that depends directly on the number of employees, right? Which depends again on the demand in minutes of calls. And then if we're talking about rent, right? What does the rent cost of a global call center operation depend on? It depends on how many people there are going to be, because that's the only thing that's inside a call center operation planned, right? It's only people. So it depends on how many people there are going to be, and of course, how much space they're going to take, and how much that space is going to cost. But basically, number of employees is the most important driver. Then you're going to cross with the others to get to the actual costs. And the number of employees, again, depends in the number of minutes of calls. And then software, same thing, number of employees, because not surprisingly, the software companies charge by number of users, all right? And then tools, the way we're going to get to the tools is number of employees, because who's going to use those tools? The people who are making the calls. Otherwise, you don't need the tools, right? And then phone network costs. Well, finally, something that doesn't depend on the number of employees, but still, it depends directly on the minutes of calls, because that's exactly what you're paying for, right? You're paying for the minutes of calls to the phone network. And if you do all this, well, since everything depends on the demand in minutes of calls, then it's not a driver of every single cost components, that's the driver of the entire costs, right? Instead of saying demand times the cost per minute for employees, the minutes times the cost per minute for rent, right? Every blah 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 blah. You can just directly structure this into number of minutes of calls and cost per minute of calls, and then you break down cost per minute of calls into everything else. So now, why is this better than just breaking down to the cost components? Well, for one thing, it allows you to do the estimation quicker. It's going to be a lot quicker to do it this way, probably around 3 times faster, right? It's going to allow you to have a smaller, simpler model, which is easier to look at, easier to think about, and easier to talk about. So it's a lot easier to show to your client, but it's also a lot easier to think about what would change. So let's say you're using this model to discuss with your client and with the partner a few changes that you could do in the operation of the call center. Maybe you want to think about what it would mean to the total costs if you were to change how long the calls would take, the average call would take, because you want to get better results, so you want to increase the minutes of each call, the average time of each call by 50%. What would this mean to the total costs? You can tell with Bruno's structure, but with this alternative structure that I showed you, you can't really tell immediately. It's going to take some work, which is going to make this discussion that could be one meeting last probably 2 or 3 weeks. Or maybe if you want to change the time that employees are off calls, you want to increase that so that you can reduce waiting time of your clients. So if you try to think about this with the alternative structure, again, this could take weeks. But if you have a simpler, more elegant structure, the one that Bruno used, then this could be done in just a meeting, right? And what this means is that this just makes of a more elegant solution because it finds the actual drivers and put them in evidence rather than bury them in the ends of the tree and behind every single cost component. And this kind of elegance just shows mental clarity because the relevant factors are clean, they're clear from the noise, and the less relevant ones, like cost per square meter, they're not parallel to the number of minutes. They're relegated to the ends of the branches, which is a lot better. Now, if you estimate it exactly the same way, the same value and the same assumptions as Bruno did, the lack of elegance could probably bother the partner up to the point of rejecting you. It could also just take so long that the partner wouldn't have the chance to challenge you in the things that he wanted, and so he would say, well, I couldn't test whether I want this guy or not. I can't hire him. And now let's move on to the next key insight. Why did the interviewer want to go into so much depth? Or, in the words that you're probably thinking, why was the interviewer, in this case me, being such an ass, right? I was challenging everything that Bruno said. I was challenging him to go deeper. And in most times, his numbers were good. The numbers that he got by going so much deeper were not so much better. So what did the partner want? So he really wanted 4 things. Number 1, he wanted to see if you could build a really, really fragmented model. Because he knows that the structure that you created the first time was good enough, as a general rule for estimation cases at least. But he wanted to see that if you needed to go deeper, you would be able to do so that when you're doing real cases, real projects, if you need, you can build a really deep model. And now he also wanted to see if you could discuss each tiny item in the model. So He wanted to know that you would see every single nuance if you needed to, so that if you're doing a real case, again, you wouldn't forget something just because it's so tiny. So that, let's say you're doing a project where you need to do this estimation, right? And then you need to do it in a day, and so you do it the simple way. But then suddenly you need more depth, and then you have a week to do it. He wants to know that if you have that week, you're not going to do it in a day again and then send it to them, and then the interviewer, or in that case your manager or partner, is going to say this is not good enough, I need deeper, and then they'll throw it back to you, and then you're doing it in a day again and go a little bit deeper, and then you're going to do it again and again and again. He doesn't want that. They want someone who can actively go in depth, and that's why he's testing that in the interview. Of course, you don't need to go in that level of depth at first, but he wants to know that once you know that you need depth, you can do it, right? And the next thing is they want to be sure that they are avoiding the frameworky candidates. What I mean is the candidates that come with answers ready in their mind. So let's say you've already seen a case where you need to estimate costs of a call center. You already have the answer, right? But then if you go into that level of depth, it's impossible to use frameworks. It's impossible to use references of cases you did in the past. You're left with only your skills, and either you can create a solution for each tiny problem, or you can't. Or you have just so many frameworks and ready answers in your mind that you can do anything, but that's fine as well. Like if you have that many ready answers in your mind that you can use on the spot, well, you're good enough, right? And the fourth thing that the partner or the interviewer in that case, well, this is a partner case, so it would be the partner, and it's me, the interviewer. I wanted to see is if Bruno would break. I know that it's incredibly frustrating to be challenged like that, and the interviewer knows as well in the actual consulting interview. They know that your ego takes a blow each time, and it feels like the interviewer is saying that you're wrong, that your answer is too shallow, in the end that you're not good enough. And a lot of people get afraid because of that. They get nervous, they make mistakes in the rest of the case. Do not get scared by this. They know what they're doing, they know what's going on, and it's nothing personal, and they don't mean that you did something wrong. Now here's what's going on. In consulting, many times the job is frustrating like this. Many times the interaction with clients is frustrating like this. And you're going to have to make points to your clients or to some people among your clients' organizations. And those people are not going to agree with those points. And they're going to come up with every single objection and questioning, and you intuitively, you will know that it will not make a difference, but you're still going to have to prove it. And the way to prove that, if you're a consultant, is with logic and with more in-depth breakdown. And if those attacks break you, then projects that happen like that are going to become a huge problem. And they can't afford that. They can't afford you having problems with that kind of project. Because I'm not sure if they're the majority of the projects, but there are a fair some of them. But it's possible that they're the majority of the projects. Consulting is frustrating like this so many times, and this is exactly what they're testing for. Alright, well guys, this is it for this case. This is it for the insights of this case. I hope it was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next video.